Okay, let's just dive right in. The idea of a meritocracy, where the best and brightest get to the top just based on talent and hard work, it sounds great, right? I mean, it's the whole foundation of our school system. But in this explainer, we're going to dig into the secret history of college admissions and show how this very idea might actually be, well, destroying American society.
And it all really starts with this one central mystery. Why is the American college application process so uniquely complicated? I mean, think about it. Most countries just use a single exam, like China's Gaokao. But here in the US, oh man, it's this crazy mix of grades, standardized tests, extracurriculars, teacher recommendations, and these personal essays where you practically have to prove you're a good person. It's bewildering. To understand why, we have to go way, way back to the beginning.
So to really get the system we have today, we've got to travel back in time. We're talking all the way back to the 1600s to look at where the Ivy League even came from.
So at first, schools like Harvard were founded for, a divine purpose, to train ministers who could read and interpret the Bible. But as America got wealthier and, frankly, less religious, these schools kind of morphed into these exclusive social clubs for the nation's elite. They were places to party, play sports, and, most importantly, build connections. But then, by the early 1900s, you have the rise of these fantastic state and research universities, like the University of Chicago, and suddenly the Ivy League felt like their relevance was totally under threat.
And this, right here, is where everything changes. Harvard felt squeezed. They felt like they were becoming irrelevant. And they realized they couldn't just be a country club anymore. They had to completely change the rules of the game to make sure they stayed the central hub of power in America.
So what did they do? Well, first, Harvard creates a scholarship program. Yep, the SAT, to find and pull in the smartest students from all over the country. But now guess who was unhappy? The wealthy alumni, of course. Their kids suddenly had to compete for spots. So Harvard has this big problem. How do you attract the best and the brightest while keeping your rich donors happy? Well, the solution was to invent a whole new system. And this quote, wow, it really just lays out the real motivation. The new buzzword was holistic, and the new thing to measure was character. The source material is really blunt about this. It wasn't about finding well-rounded people. It was a tool for social engineering. It was designed to limit the number of academically brilliant Jewish students who, at the time, were seen as lacking the manly character of the white Protestant elite. And today, this very same system is used to manage the demographics of other groups.
This new holistic system was built on two core principles that gave universities total, unchecked power. First, secrecy. They never, ever have to tell you why you were accepted or rejected. And second, discretion. They can admit anyone they want for their own institutional reasons, no matter what your scores or grades are. The goal wasn't to find the smartest student anymore. It was to find the student most likely to succeed and bring power and prestige back to the university.
So here's the crucial point. The big shift in thinking we need to make. We have to reframe how we see these universities. They aren't primarily places of education. They're investment firms, and they are hunting for students who will give them the highest possible return on their brand.
The best analogy is to think of an elite university as a venture capital firm. A VC doesn't want to invest in a restaurant that's guaranteed to make a small profit. No way. They want to invest in the crazy idea that could become a billion-dollar company. They are hunting for moonshots.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the risk profile. The safe bet is that perfect student, the one who becomes a professor. For the university's brand, that's kind of boring. It's a low return. The moonshot, though, that's the high-risk candidate. They might fail, and fail spectacularly, but they also might become president, or a billionaire, or a famous artist. That is the billion-dollar return they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, it's those massive successes that everyone remembers, and that's what builds the brand. So how do they even spot these moonshots? Well, the source offers a pretty provocative diagnosis. They look for signs of what it calls dissociative personality disorder. Now, this isn't a clinical term, to be clear, but a description of a psychological profile. So what are they looking for? First, desperation, a feeling that getting in is literally a matter of life and death. Second, insecurity, this deep void inside that drives a person to just achieve relentlessly. And third, a transgressive spirit, a willingness to, bend or break the rules to get ahead. Okay, so that's how this system works. But what's the actual cost? What happens when you design a system to find and to reward this very specific psychological profile? Well, the impact is staggering, not just for individuals, but for the entire country. And this, right here, is the absolute core of the problem. This system doesn't just identify people who have gone through trauma, it actively creates trauma.
The endless, brutal competition of elite education, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's basically a Hunger Games designed to forge these hyper-competitive people who see the entire world as a zero-sum game.
And let's look at the evidence. The first cost is financial, and it's just brutal. While the price of admission to get into this system has absolutely skyrocketed, leading to crushing student debt, the median wages for young people have stayed pretty much flat. That promise of economic prosperity, it's just not paying off for most people.
The second cost is societal. You'd think, hey, with more and more people going to college, society should become more equal, right? Nope. The exact opposite has happened. As you can see from this chart of the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality, the U.S. has become one of the most unequal developed nations on Earth.
And this slide, wow, this just brilliantly illustrates where all that power has gone. This system hasn't created a big, broad class of successful people. It has created a tiny, super concentrated ruling class. Graduates from just a handful of elite schools dominate every single major institution in America, from Fortune 500 companies to the Senate and the courts. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of power.
So, if the system is designed this way, what can you even do? Well, the answer isn't about trying to win a game that's rigged from the start. It's about choosing to play a different one entirely.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the meritocracy path. It's obsessed with grades, terrified of failure, and totally driven by what other people think, that external validation. It's a utilitarian mindset. But on the other side, you've got the learning path. This one's about open-mindedness, resilience, internal growth, and a real commitment to a passion. It actually embraces failure as the best teacher, because that is where the real learning happens.
So the crucial point is this. The source argues that real success doesn't come from being indoctrinated into a system that just turns you into a robot focused only on achievement. It comes from recognizing the system for what it is and then making a conscious choice to pursue real learning for its own sake.
Which leaves us with a final, really provocative question. This whole system, from the admissions process all the way to the culture on campus, it's all designed to select for and cultivate a very specific type of person, all to maintain a concentration of power. So if that's the case, and you're not already part of that elite, is trying to win this game just a mistake? Is the only real way to succeed to just refuse to play by its rules?